darkness. Not the kind you see when you close your eyes, but the kind that feels like it's watching you back. Richard didn't know how long he'd been falling. Seconds, hours, years. Time didn't exist here. All he knew was the grip on his wrist, cold, small, and trembling, and the voice that whispered, "Don't let go." When the darkness finally released him, Richard hit the ground hard. But this ground wasn't wood or concrete or anything human. It pulsed beneath him like a giant, steady heartbeat. He opened his eyes, and for the first time in his life, Richard saw the real Nerraw. It wasn't a basement. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't some metaphor for grief. It was a world. A vast, endless landscape of floating staircases, broken instruments, and shattered memories drifting through the air like dust. The sky was a swirling storm of deep blues and burning gold, the very same colors that lived inside Charlie's music. But the air tasted wrong, sweet, then bitter, warm, then freezing, as if the world itself couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Richard stood slowly, his body aching from the fall. "Charlie, where are you?" the world answered. A low hum vibrated through the ground, a familiar hum, the hum of a melody Charlie used to play whenever he was nervous. Richard followed the sound, his hope a fragile flame in this impossible place. He walked past floating keyboards with cracked keys, past guitars strung with threads of pure light, past drums that echoed without ever being touched. Every instrument whispered something as he passed. He was here. He played for us. He didn't want to leave. The whispers were sad, like echoes of a forgotten concert. The hum grew louder, pulling him forward. He reached a cliff, a jagged edge overlooking a massive chasm filled with swirling smoke. And in the center of that chasm, floating on a platform of pure light, was the room of magic, but not the basement version, not the echo. This was the original. The walls were alive with golden names, shifting and rearranging themselves like constellations in a midnight sky. The bulb above the door glowed like a miniature sun, and the door was wide open, an invitation into the heart of the mystery. A narrow bridge of light materialized, leading toward it. Richard didn't hesitate. He stepped onto the bridge, his focus locked on the room. Halfway across, he heard footsteps behind him, slow, deliberate, too heavy to be Charlie's. A cold dread washed over him. Richard didn't turn around. He just kept walking. Faster now. The footsteps grew closer. A voice deep, distorted, and layered with static spoke, chilling him to the bone. "You shouldn't have come back." Richard froze. That voice wasn't Charlie's. It wasn't the shadows. It wasn't anything human. He turned slowly. Standing at the start of the bridge was a figure made of smoke and broken sound. A towering shape with no face, only a mouth that stretched far too wide. The creature's voice crackled like a corrupted recording. "Nerraw keeps what it's given." Richard took a step back, his heart pounding against his ribs. "I'm here for Charlie." The creature tilted its head, a gesture that was unnervingly curious. Charlie chose this place. He chose the dream. He chose the pain. Richard shook his head, refusing to believe it. No, he was trapped. The creature's mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. "Everyone here is trapped." The bridge trembled beneath his feet. The room of magic pulsed with a brilliant light, as if calling to him. Richard made his choice. He ran. The creature roared, a sound like 1,000 broken speakers shattering at once, and the bridge of light shattered behind him. He leaped, his fingers barely grabbing the edge of the platform. He pulled himself up, gasping for air. Inside the room of magic, the names glowed brighter, swirling faster, forming a spiral of golden light. And there, at the very center of the room, sitting on the floor with his head down and his hands over his ears, was Charlie, small, shaking, terrified. Richard's voice was barely a whisper. "Charlie, I'm here." The boy didn't look up. The room suddenly dimmed. The creature's voice echoed from just outside the door. "If you take him, you must stay." Richard stepped toward the boy, his resolve hardening. "Charlie, look at me." Slowly, hesitantly, Charlie lifted his head. His eyes were glowing, not with magic, but with pure, undiluted fear. "Richard," he whispered, his voice cracking. "It followed me." A monumental force slammed against the doorframe, shaking the entire room. Richard grabbed Charlie's hand, the small, cold hand he'd held while falling. The names on the walls flared like fire. The creature roared. The room began to collapse. And in that moment, Richard realized the terrifying truth. Nerraw wasn't trying to keep Charlie. It was trying to keep him. The boy with the dream was never the prisoner. The man who chased the dream was. The floor cracked, the light shattered, and the room of magic, the heart of this impossible world, fell into darkness. Thanks for watching. If you want to see what happens next in Richard and Charlie's story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'll see you in the next chapter.